Gamers are an enthusiastic and committed bunch, but some things take just a little bit more. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 things in video games that require serious dedication. Starting off at number 10, it's creating mods and custom maps. You may not know it, but you can find many passionate communities of creators making mods, new maps, even total conversions of some of the best games out there. Everybody knows about the modding scenes of games like Skyrim and the Bethesda Fallout games, and there's some truly incredible stuff made for those games. Sure, some is bizarre, but a lot of it is really great. It's really the fans that keep those games alive over the period of time. Like, we're still talking about those games, and people are still playing them. Some people try to make games more beautiful and impressive, and can really make some incredible stuff in what we would call an aging game. And beyond that, some of the most important work being done in the modding community is a lot of bug fixing and getting games working on modern systems. Bethesda's games are far from the only ones with a lot of mods, though, and not the oldest either. Like, look at the Doom community. They're making levels and mods for this game, and it's been 30 years since Doom came out. But a lot of people in that community just started as regular fans who wanted to make something for the games they loved, and they've become artists in their own right. Look at some of the maps people have made recently. The visuals are incredible for a game this old. It's not just mappers who are dedicated. There's musicians, passionate people who make music just for, level mods. It's incredible. And there's an easy way to find the cream of the crop with the annual Cock Awards, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's not. It's just an event where they're celebrating their still vibrant and evolving community. And there's a ton more out there. Like, the Mario fan creator community is pretty impressive. There's people putting out Tomb Raider maps after all this time. And then, of course, you got to mention all the stuff people make for the original Half-Life, including an entire remake of the game. This stuff takes hundreds of hours of hard work and dedication to make, and these fans make this stuff usually with no expectation of any kind of financial award. They just love the game. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. And number 9 is writing guides. This one goes out to all the total madmen posting complete guides on game FAQs back in the day. Without you, I never would have found the Upside Down Castle in Symphony of the Night. Like in the Wild West days of the internet, there was really nothing to gain from writing these game guides. People just did it because they loved the game and wanted to help other people out. And finding time to play a game is tough enough for most of us, but writing a guide for it, especially a complete one, you really got to take that game length and, like, at a minimum double or triple it, maybe even quadruple it. And that's just for the amount of time somebody's going to spend playing the game to understand it enough to write a guide. These days, guide writing is a pretty big business, and every gaming website out there is pretty big on guides. There's still an art to it, though, and people can tell the difference between someone who clearly spent a lot of time learning a game inside out versus someone who cranked out a guide as quickly as they could. If you really want to see a group of people dedicated to guide writing, check out any given achievement guide on Xbox Achievements or PlayStation Trophies. Some of these are incredibly detailed and thorough in a way that only someone who truly understands a game inside out could possibly write. For all the people making guides, for the simple text-based one, for the sweet ASCII art, for the game's logo, to the more professional hyperlink and image-fill guides, I think we all owe these folks a big thank you. It's because of their hard work that a lot of us are able to finish some games. Like, especially when I was a kid, back in the day, game FAQs, man. Number 8 is getting to the top of the leaderboard. A whole lot of the times these days, games include leaderboards. And for me, getting in the top 50% is an achievement of its own. Back when leaderboards were localized to a single machine, though, it was conceivably possible to get to the top without a lot of work, but nowadays it requires serious dedication. If you haven't noticed, there are a lot of very, very skilled players out there for pretty much any game conceivable. If it's got a leaderboard, you better believe that the people on there grinding away are trying to get to the top, and that means they're trying to get better all the time. And fairly. Like, the biggest problem with online leaderboards is that unless they're protected or heavily moderated, you're going to get fakers using cheat engines and hacks filling up the top of the boards with humanly impossible times, and that really ruins the fun for everybody else. There's not much that can really be done unless the developers step in, and sadly it's pretty common that they don't. Still, for games that have functional leaderboards, there's a lot of competition for the top spot, and if you're really into a game, it can be a lot of fun trying to optimize your playstyle so you can eventually get that coveted top spot. And number 7 is speedrunning. The world of speedrunning has really blown up in the last few years, and what was once a very niche hobby has become the primary way a lot of people engage with games, and because of that, the barrier for entry can seem almost insurmountable. The people at the top of the most popular speedrunning games have an almost inhuman level of precision that allows them to get the best times in games, which isn't just something you can do at the drop of a hat. To get good at speedrunning, you gotta work at it. Spend hours non-stop grinding to get the muscle memory, to be able to pull off a lot of the tricks that speedrunning requires. Every run that takes only a few minutes in real time to complete equals hundreds of hours of practice just playing the same game over and over and over. It's an almost unbelievable amount of dedication to a single game that only a very specific type of person can do, but the results speak for themselves. There's a reason speedrunning videos get plastered all over gaming websites, why people report on the newest strategies and shortcuts. It's because this stuff is really impressive. Whether it's a glitchless run that requires a person to play a game for hours on end with near perfect precision, or a sub-minute glitch run where they manage to do some crazy stuff with RNG values and quirks of the game code, it takes a long time and a lot of dedication to make a proper speedrun work. At number 6 is becoming a video game streamer. You hear all the time about how great it has to be a streamer. I mean, their job is to play games. Basically, 10-year-old me's dream job, right? It's not all sunshine and rainbows, though. It can actually be a lot of work to be a full-time streamer. There's a lot to deal with, for one. There's a lot of technical issues, the challenges of interacting with chat while playing a game and being good enough that it's interesting, or being interesting in some other way. To be engaging the whole time. Like, I'm not gonna, lie here. When I play a game, I vastly prefer to just shut up and play it. And then there's all the challenges that come with dealing with Twitch, YouTube on the back end. It's kind of a lot to think about when you're one person. And when you think about the fact that back in the day, like a live TV broadcast required like 50, 60 people, think about that. It can be overwhelming at times, even for experienced streamers. And these are people who have grown accustomed to the system and have found success. There's thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands who have not. People who do great work, but for whatever reason never manage to break through despite their best effort. Success can often be at the flip of a coin, and if you're dead set on being somebody who streams for a living, that can be very tough. The amount of money you get from Twitch and YouTube can fluctuate pretty wildly from month to month, and with YouTube and Twitch's constantly changing rules and algorithm, you just never know if things are going to go your way, or some random rule change is going to tank your income, or for that matter, a copyright troll just comes in and tanks something that should be important for you, but then just is down for a while. There's a lot to worry about when you're a streamer. Obviously, not the worst job ever. It's legitimately great for people who can manage it, but if you're planning on being serious about streaming games, it's important to recognize just how much dedication it takes to make it an actual job. I have a lot of respect for people who manage to make it look easy, because that is a skill. At number 5, challenging yourself by playing a game with custom controls. I just recently saw a headline of somebody who was playing 2 Elden Ring games at once with a dance pad, which, I mean, just straight off is completely insane. But I also can't help but admire the dedication. One of the growing niches out there in gaming is to play games with just outlandish alternative controls or with severe handicaps. It's not quite speedrunning, but these people are dedicated to a game in a way that just seems totally impossible. Like that one guy who managed to beat Mike Tyson's Punch-Out blindfolded. How do you do that? The amount of practice required has to be off the charts. Like, I can't even really imagine. I've seen people play Rocket League with a guitar, Dark Souls with a harp, Overwatch with bananas, like literal fruits. The list goes on, and it's all insane. Some of these setups are totally custom and require some pretty clever engineering to even have work. Like this one guy, Rudism on Twitch, he wired up a bunch of bananas into a circuit, making them into controllers. A lot of these games are a struggle to get through with even a normal controller, let alone one of these awkward things. I feel like just getting used to the controls in this situation would be tough, but some of these people actually master the games that they're playing with, like, bananas and crap. I don't understand why you would choose to torture yourself like this, but it's impressive. At number 4, running a popular guild in an MMO. Being an active MMO player isn't like playing other games. It's not just a thing you do to pass the time occasionally. It requires a level of dedication rarely seen in other genres of game. A huge part of playing an MMO is the social experience, and for someone who runs a guild, a large group of affiliated players, the actual game part can be secondary. Like in games like WoW, it's all about organizing people, setting up raids, keeping people engaged, and drawing in new members. There can be interpersonal conflicts you have to mediate mediate, promote, and sometimes demote officers, hand out responsibilities, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a lot of responsibility, even a game as relatively simple as World of Warcraft, and that's nothing at all compared to something like running a guild in EVE Online. In that game, the majority of the economy is player-driven, and that money can be converted into real-world cash, which means there's a whole lot to be gained by running a popular and powerful guild, but just as much to lose. When you're the leader of a corporation, EVE's named for guilds, you're not just in charge of a bunch of players, you're in charge of assets, most of which have a real-world value attached. Corporations aren't just floating around doing nothing in EVE. They can take over star systems, engage in large-scale trade, and fight wars. Like, look at the many different types of roles you can have in an EVE Corp. Outside of the CEO, there's directors, communications officers, contract managers, diplomats, personnel managers, factory managers, rent officers, auditors, and general accountants. If that sounds like a real-world corporation, that's because in a lot of ways it is one. And if you're running the corporation, all this stuff is your responsibility. Whether it's EVE Online or Warcraft or even something like a simple Clash of Clans type thing, running a guild is something that takes a lot of dedication. And number 3 is building a video game collection. For some folks, having an extensive physical game collection is the ultimate goal. Retro video game collecting is still a big business, and a lot of people are looking to get into it. But if you're actually serious about it, you're going to need 3 things: a lot of money, time, and even more practice. For more old school types, the goal is to build a complete collection where you get every single game released for a given console in a single region. Usually for these types of collectors, just having it is enough. They're looking for a complete box. All the stuff that you would get greatly increases the value of every given game, and they just want everything. Now, let's put this into perspective. Just for the NES alone, that means you'd have to collect around 716 games, and that's including officially licensed games. If you wanted to include 10 Gen and Wisdom Tree games, that number goes even higher. Most of these games aren't even worth a lot, but still, there's a few incredibly rare games like Flintstones, Surprise at Dinosaur Park, or Little Samson, both of which go for well over $1,000. If you're a collector more interested in graded games that are in mint or near mint condition, then it's a little more expensive. The price on these graded games have dropped significantly in the last year or so, but certain games still go for a lot of money. Of course, getting the games is one thing, but these days if you actually want to play them, it requires some work. A lot of old cartridge games had internal batteries that now need to be replaced if they're going to work, and a lot of older consoles need repairs to remain functional. That means any good collector these days doesn't just need a space to store this stuff, they need to learn how to use repair tools like a soldering iron to get the old games working again. But at least now there are a pretty fair amount of YouTube tutorials out there to make soldering a little easier to try out. But to go that far requires a lot of dedication to old games, and it's really above and beyond. At number 2, playing multiplayer games at a tournament level. Esports is where the big dogs play, and the best players in the world compete at this level in a manner that most of us can't even begin to imagine. The level of individual skill every player in a team needs to play in a major game tournament is just nuts. It's constant practice, theory crafting, and strategizing. That's just playing the game, too. There's more going on than that. You have to be good at the community, you got to get your name out there, you got to build a personal brand. There's a reason so many popular esports personalities are also streamers. The skill sets basically go hand in hand, and it gives you something to fall back on. Most players who compete on an international level first get started in their local scene and build up their name from there. Thing about esports is that there's no standard pipeline to getting into the major leagues. It's pretty much all up to you to make a name for yourself and make the right connections. That's the part that people don't talk about as much. It's almost important as the gameplay side of things. When push comes to shove, how skilled you are at your chosen game is the most important thing. But if you don't have a sponsor or a team, you may not be able to enter a lot of these tournaments, and all the skill in the world doesn't mean squat if you can't be there to play. Anyone who manages to play in the local tournaments deserves some respect because it takes determination to get there. And then number 1 is pretty much the holy grail here, making your own game, like becoming an indie developer, you know? Let me tell you about Hollow Knight. I know most people probably only heard about the game after it came out, but I remember looking at it on their old website many years ago. I have no idea if you can find that website anymore. I didn't find it on the Wayback Machine, but it was mostly just a simple map and the name. That had to have been around 2013, maybe 2014. And that game came out in 2017. That game, of course, went on to be just a huge, ridiculous success but that took some time. The day it came out, it wasn't even on the Steam front page. That's nearly 4 years of hard work and uncertainty, and in compared to some other indie developers out there, that's nothing. The two-man Dwarf Fortress developers have been working on that game for nearly 20 years and only just recently put it on Steam for people to buy. That's on the extreme end, but for most indie developers, especially the ones with only 1 or 2 people, it takes a long time to even get a basic looking game done. Yeah, there's tools to make things easier, and some of them you don't even have to know how to code, but when you make a game, you have to make literally everything. Everything in the game has to be created or purchased by you, but it's either time or money, and both add up quick. To be an indie developer is to be someone who dedicates years of their lives to a single project, and at the end of the day, people might not even like it. Or maybe people like it, but nobody buys it. You really just don't know how things are going to go down. Sometimes it just comes down to luck whether a game is going to gain mainstream attention or just gets forgotten about. There's just so many things that can go wrong when making a game, and if you're an indie, double it. There's so much awesome stuff coming out of the indie scene, all from people who probably have no expectation of huge success. They just want to make games that they want to play. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.